zone you are in because, like, I know I'm connected to people everywhere. This is Jeff Cohen, CEO and founder of C-Level Roundtable. And, we're here today with an amazing woman to talk about a really, really timely and impactful topic. So first, let me introduce the topic so it's worth staying for, right? It's the Gallup 2022 State of the Global Workforce or Workplace report. And it was published recently, and there are some really key nuggets that I think are very important to do. So I'm inviting guests that are experts like Janine Hamner Holman, who I've known for years, and then found out, oh, she's an expert in this area too. Okay, so I am just super excited to have her. Janine is a coach, a consultant, a speaker. Did I miss anything? Queen of the universe?
All of that, exactly.
And with her background in HR and employee relations, like one of the people that just popped to the top of my list to talk to about this impactful issue. Because what we're going to talk about are some of the statistics, yes, if I can just say it, some of the statistics that, okay, I'm going to make myself a little bit smaller just for that. There we go. How's that? Because some of the statistics don't take the whole screen. They just take part of the screen up. And, I want to start, Janine, we talked in our pre-conversation about employee engagement, and there's also this notion of employee thriving, but let's look at engagement for a minute. By the way, engagement drives profit, but we'll tell you about that in a few minutes. 21% globally of employees are engaged at work. 21%. What do you make of that, Janine?
So this is a fascinating number. And part of what's fascinating to me about this number is that it has not moved in decades. And the reality is that when we think about engagement, so if you think about a time when you were working and you had a boss, whether it was you or somebody else, that you loved, and that had it be great for you to show up at work, and they were invested in you and in your success. When we get to work in those kinds of environments, and maybe you have a whole team around you of people who are engaged, who are excited, who are enthusiastic, who have each other's back, who are there for each other and there for the mission of the organization and really feel connected to each other and to the mission of the organization. Like when we have those kinds of experiences, we feel engaged. And the reality is less than 1 in 4 of us are having that experience at work.
And I would just highlight something you said. I want to dig into it actually, because here's the thing. I don't have it that 21% of the people are engaged the way that you said that you'd like to have your people engaged.
Yeah.
I think the way you describe it, that would be like my panacea as a leader. Like, oh my God, my people love me. They love their teammates. They love the other leadership. They love their job, right? But I'm going to say that number has to be much, much smaller.
So that I was describing is actually what Gallup would call highly engaged.
Okay.
That's where we're going. That's where we would love to be. That's highly engaged. That's about 1 in 10 of us are highly engaged. And so then if you back it off a little from that, most of the time you're happy to go to work. Your boss is pretty good. You feel pretty happy with your teammates. That's the experience of 1 in 4. But
Gotcha.
what that means is that 3 out of 4 of us are having a significantly less engaged situation than that. And that is what is leading to lower profitability. It's also what is leading to burnout of our people. And so, what this report, which I love it, Jeff, that you are doing these sessions digging into this report, because what this report is pointing to is that at this moment in time, we are in trouble in terms of how engaged our people are, and it's having an impact on the bottom line. And if you think about what we've been through over the last 2.5 years, that human beings are suffering from burnout, that does not feel very surprising. And
Well,
so
let's
then the
talk about that.
question is,
Yeah.
yeah,
Let's talk about the burnout for a second, because
yeah,
like I think first off, we all got, I'm going to speak for the whole world here. We all got tired of COVID-19. Like we're just tired of it, right? But it's still there, right?
still
And
is.
some of us are getting it now and some are not. And whatever happened there with your business, if you went virtual, because a lot of the folks I work with are knowledge worker kind of
Right.
people, right?
Where it's a lot easier to go virtual.
Exactly. Like if you have a physical job at a restaurant, you're got to be there.
Right. If you pick
But
up the trash, you gotta be at work.
right. But if you're in a technology environment, you could employ people all over the world. The thing is, though, is that especially in a lot of corporate environments, they have some virtual work that's okay before the pandemic.
Right.
Like, okay, you can work from home a day a week, or there's a day a month, or whatever it is, right? The pandemic came, and now it went from that to, okay, we're working 100% from home, and how do we have teams be effective? Oh, and by the way, little Johnny, that's 3, just climbed up on my lap, and I'm in the middle of coding this app. Like, that's not going to work. And people did get stressed. I'm curious, Janine, employers you spoke to, what you saw with employees, like, what did they do to cope with those issues and, support their staff through that transition?
It's been really interesting, and really it plays across the gamut. I mean, there are some organizations that realized, wow, this is having a big impact on our people, and the issues of children being at home and trying to take care of kids, and homeschooling, and sometimes parents at home as well, and how do you balance all of that? And the organizations that have done it the best, that are working through this with the most efficiency, with the most employee engagement, with the highest profitability as a result, are the ones that are really helping their people figure out, how do we manage this, that are looking at employee wellness and realizing that the organization is a critical partner in that. It used to be like, well, how you doing? How you sleeping? Do you need to go see a therapist? Like, organizations would occasionally ask those questions, but now they're realizing that's a key part of their role as an organization, is to ensure the health and wellness of their people, which
Well,
is a big shift.
yeah, I think what you're really talking about is creating a culture that empowers people to own what they can own. And I think that's really the biggest thing that I've noticed over the years, is that there's the old way of doing things, right? What is that? Well, I wrote a book called Countable, because the old way was everyone's accountable, and if you're not accountable, you're fired. and then there started, right? So organizations, they started slimming down more on the people they had. And then a new culture came up, which was, well, if you're not accountable, just say you will be. and people will forget about it. And in fact, I've had more than one executive that I've asked, I've said to them, I've said, hey, do you ever get assigned accountability to anything and then think about it, even though you've accepted it? And the answer to that is yes. And not publicly, of course, privately, because everyone wants to look good.
Right.
But the answer to the why, and I ask, well, why would you take something on and not actually do it?
Or have any intention of doing it?
Right. And the answer is really pretty spectacular. It's amazing. In fact, I was shocked. It almost always is, there's less of a penalty for me to say, I'm going to do something and let it go to the bottom of my list where it'll probably be forgotten by everybody, than to say, no, that's not something my team does, or I don't do that, and then have it reassigned. And when you talk about employee engagement to me is a state of mind and a confidence where employees can actually own it. Because, I see that 21% of people, those are the people that are most likely saying, I'm responsible, right? I'm willing to take something on, it actually gets complete, right? They're not in fear for their jobs. And why are they not in fear for their jobs? Because they know that they're secure, either at this job or they could be on another one tomorrow. But the other 80%, the 79% that are not engaged, right? Those guys might be living in survival mode. And that really sucks. And by the way, as leaders, we create that. Like, it's up to us to own if our people are in survival mode. It's not that we have B players. It's that we have A players and we turn them into B players by doing things like assigning them tasks that they have no wherewithal to do. Like, don't ask me to do the laundry. I just will not do it the way you want it. I can't fold those little socks. It's not happening.
And the other thing that we often fall into as managers is we will say to somebody, I need a cup. And they will say, okay. And they'll go to work and they'll create a cup and they'll bring you the cup. And you say, no, not that cup. And so then they go back to work and then they bring you a cup. And you say, no, not that cup. And then they bring you a cup and you say, no, not that cup. And we don't give them enough direction about really. So, Jeff, I need you to be accountable for this thing. And
no.
if
no, but Janine, you can count on me to do this and that and the other, but I'm not doing the laundry.
Right.
Just not.
Which is great. That's a very clear boundary. I'm not doing laundry. But the challenge is, like, we'll say, I need you to find me a cup, or I need you to make me a cup. But then we won't give any parameters. Does the cup need to have a lid? Do we care about what color it is? Does it need to be a certain size? And so what I work with organizations on is getting into this idea that to be count-onable, we need to have partnership, so that I say, Jeff, can you make me a cup? And you say, I would love to make you a cup. What kind of cup do you need? And you keep asking me questions and I keep providing information. And then when we get to the end of that dialogue, I say, great. Is there anything else that you need from me in order to create that cup? To just make sure we've teased it all out. And so in that case, I can be completely count-onable now to create that cup for you, because I understand what the parameters are that you need. And so often as managers, we forget to really, just like in our home lives, nobody is a mind reader, and we forget to let people in to really all the nuances of what we need.
Yeah, no, that's perfect, Janine, because what I hear you saying is something that I really feel strongly about. In fact, and I've shared this story on a bunch of podcasts, but it's about effective communication.
Yes.
So what happens, what you just described is the difference between one that's effective and one that's not. But you also said something else that I want people to really grasp, which is it's not just an effective communication, it's a complete one.
Yeah.
And what we often get, and I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version of this story, but my wife and I took our foster resource daughter when she was a year old to visit some friends. And so she had an event with her friend, and they went out one night. My friend and I took his 7-year-old daughter and my 1-year-old in the wagon to dinner. And, then after dinner, we went to frozen yogurt. And as we're pulling up to frozen yogurt, I looked back and I saw my daughter holding the side of the wagon in tears. Her legs were shaking. She was scared.
Oh.
I know. So I stopped. I picked her up. I comforted her. I put her back in the wagon and I turned to the 7-year-old. Now, keep in mind, this was not a business situation. This was very, very personal, like a friendship is at stake when you approach their child.
Right.
And I said, "Hey, honey, did you notice that she was crying?" She goes, "Yeah, I told you." And I said, "Oh, I didn't hear you." And she said, "Okay." So I said, "Hey, can you do me a favor?" I said, "If that happens again, can you make sure that I answer you if you call my name?"
Yeah.
And she said the thing that we have now trained our children to say, because we got it at work. "Got it." Here's the thing. She then went right back down to playing her video game. And I said to her, "Hey, honey, I'm just curious. What'd you get?" And then like 5 seconds went by and her thumb stopped moving. And 10 seconds went by and she was like a statue. At about the 15-second mark, she lifted her head up and she said, "You want to make sure that I answer you that you answer me if I call for you when there's something that's going on." And I said, "Yes, I would be so grateful." Now, here's the thing we want to happen at work and in our families, but we're talking about business. So I'm going to say at work, we want this to happen.
Right.
A month later, we went back to visit. And the 7-year-old came up to me and said, "Hey, can my friends and I play with your daughter?" And I said to her, "Absolutely. And I just need to know one thing. Do you remember that conversation we had in the wagon when she was crying?" She goes, "Oh, the one where you want to make sure that I hear you if I call you?" And I said, "Yeah, that one." I get emotional every time I tell that story because
it's a beautiful story.
It's the thing that we just all want in our families and in our business. And these tools that you and I engage with clients on are about effectively communicating and, knowing your triggers. Like when you know you're triggered, I had so much fun writing chapter 1 of my book, Grand Theft Auto. It's the very first trigger in my life that I have carried through for every job and every relationship. And like, I don't know how to waste your time because of that. But I think those are some of the things, and you and I have had these conversations, like our goal is help organizations be effective and communicate and engaged. And by the way,
thriving.
If you're thriving, right, that means that your customers probably notice that. And everybody loves to do business with a winner. Everyone.
Right? And, when we think about the marketplace today, and when we think about who are the consumers, you and I are of older demographic generations.
What? When did that
I
happen?
know it's shocking. It is shocking. I'm so sorry to have called attention to something. And there was a lot of shade that was, to use a younger generation work. There was a lot of shade that was thrown on the millennial generation for quite a long time.
Sure.
And the reality is that today, the oldest millennials are now 41 years old. So these are the leaders of today, and certainly they're the leaders of tomorrow. In just 2.5 years, 75% of the workforce will be millennials and the Gen Zs who are coming in after them.
Oh yeah.
And an enormous focus of this generation, and even more so actually for the Gen Zs, is what is the culture of the organization? What is the personality of the organization? Do I feel connected to it? What is their environmental profile? What is their social justice perspective? And if employees are connected to the mission of the organization, which is anything about how we're making the world a better place by making our widget better than somebody else's widget, or the widget for tomorrow, then they are going to be excited, which is going to connect directly to customer engagement and customer retention, which when we talk about, what businesses really care about, of course, they care about their people. But as you and I were talking about in the pre-interview, profitability is oxygen to a business. If a business is not profitable, it cannot, in fact, continue to operate. And so, understanding this connection between when our employees are thriving leads to, so the most thriving organizations, actually just not even the most thriving, just mediocrely thriving organizations, are 23% more profitable than other businesses. So this connection between our people are engaged, then our customers get engaged, then our customers get loyal, then we profit from it.
Yeah.
This is the 21st century model of leadership and organizational development.
Well, it's great that you bring that up, Janine, because I'm partnering with a new organization right now. And what they do is they actually have a system for identifying what the relationship between a customer and the employees at your company is.
Oh, I love that.
And they're actually able to map the two. And I'm working with them now to help take some services to market. They've been doing services for years, but some new services that engage the organization's culture to help affect the change that can actually now be measured. We're actually going to be able to measure customer satisfaction versus employee belief in their customers being satisfied, and target things that would actually help that. So listen, I know you and I could talk about this stuff for hours, and I also know that people are working right now, and we want to give them an opportunity to get back at it. So I really want to keep these conversations to about 20 or 25 minutes.
Right.
I'm going to share something in just a minute, but for you, Janine, I want to give you an opportunity to complete this conversation. Let people know how they can get a hold of you and what for.
Great. So the biggest thing that organizations are getting a hold of me for right now is actually two different things. One is we're having a hard time retaining the best talent or recruiting the best talent. And we need some organizational support with that. And so I do what's called organizational development. So anything that has to do with having your people show up awesome, that's what I do as a consultant. Then the other thing that people are hiring me to do is to come in as a keynote speaker. So if you're having a leadership event, or if you really want to engage your leaders and you're doing a event around that, or your whole organization, people are hiring me to come in to talk to their people about leadership in the 21st century and leadership in times of disruption and leadership as it's happening right now. And so I've been doing a lot of that too. And the best way to find me is through LinkedIn. I'm the only Janine Hamner Holman there.
Awesome. I love it. So first off, Janine, I really want to acknowledge who you are in the world for companies, because you are a woman that gets people and helps take organizations to the level their people weren't expecting. And you and I, we are kind of two halves of the same coin. Because when I hear, the conversations you and I talk about, and I know we have some similar training and some similarities in the things we care about and what we do. But when I hear that, I can just tell you that if I'm busy, you should absolutely reach out to Janine and check in with her.
And Versi Vice.
I'm happy to engage. And so I think that's amazing. So I want to thank you for joining me. And I want to just share with everyone for a minute who I am in the world. I think you got in this conversation how much I care about kids. I mean, I'm a foster resource parent with my wife, right? We've been doing that. We've had 3 placements, and it's just the impact we get to have is enormous, right? And who I am for you and your company is somebody that helps create the environment where mom and dad, they can come home from work and sit around the table with their kids, and their kids can dream about the great life and career they get to have because mom and dad just love working with you so much. That's what I do in this world.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah, and thank you. And you can find me here on LinkedIn or any of the other social platforms. You can also download the book or go to the website, counthonorable.com, and download the first chapter, all of the charts and graphs and the process that's used. It's all there. Like you can become.
I have the book, and it's just terrific. I would highly encourage folks to check it out.
Oh, thanks, Janine. And it's also very personal. Like I told you, my first chapter is Grand Theft Auto. So you guys can love that.
It's a really fun chapter.
That's awesome. Thank you, Janine. So, hey, thank you, everyone. Feel free to reach out, comment, like, share, and let's get the word out about this report. Help people really get entrenched in how they can have great companies with low turnover and high engagement. I'm Jeff Cohen, CEO of C-Level Roundtable. Thanks for joining us on this week's episode.